I've already logged in and I still have my jurisdiction set as Florida 11th Circuit and Supreme Court. So we're going to start with plain language searching. The box at the top of the screen allows you to do find by citation, find by party name, or you can search for sources to search in, or you can enter your search. So if I just type in, you can type it in as a question if you want, if that makes more sense to you, or you can just put keywords in, or you can do terms and connectors, which we'll do in just a second. But I just typed in expert witness evidence, and it ran through everything in the first two columns on the home page in the jurisdiction that I have selected. So on the left-hand side, you have your documents broken out by document type. I ran a very broad search, so I can go over filtering your results. On the right-hand side, you have your results. It shows the first two most relevant cases, and then the most relevant for each of the additional document types. So you can just kind of get an overview of the kind of results you're getting, and do you want to add search terms, that sort of thing. So if I click on cases on the left-hand side, that's going to load my case results. And again, I ran a very broad search, so I have a large number of cases, but if I scroll down on the left-hand side, I'm able to filter those down. Before I do that, I just want to point out on the right-hand side, you have some secondary sources that are showing that are related to the issue search. You don't subscribe to this related documents, but if you do see something over here, you do subscribe to secondary sources. So you can go into the secondary sources and find those sources in there, and you're able to filter in there as well. So if it's an ALR article, you can filter the secondary sources to show you ALR articles, or you can do a search within your results and put in the title of the article. So just because if you click on these and it tells you can't get in those, it doesn't mean you can't get it. You can still go over here to the secondary sources and get into the materials that way. So to filter down the cases, if you haven't used your filters before, you're going to have the button that says select multiple filters. I would recommend go ahead and clicking that. That way you can filter by more than one thing at a time. If you don't do that, every time you check something, it's going to filter your results. So if you want to filter by 3 or 4 different things, it's going to refresh your screen every time you select. So if you click the select multiple filters, you have the option to search within the results. So if there are additional search terms that you want to filter by, you can do that. This would be a terms and connectors search, a Boolean search. So it's telling you that if you want a phrase, use quotes, and is going to require all the terms to be in the result, and there may not be much of a relationship between the terms. One may be the first term and one may be the last term in the document. And then you want to make sure you use connectors. So here you have a /3 for within 3 words, or /s for within the same sentence. Otherwise, if you just put personal jurisdiction venue, it would treat the space as an or. So it would look for personal or jurisdiction or venue. So if you use that and you're using more than one term, you want to make sure that you use connectors in there. You can filter by jurisdiction. So if you wanted to see, for example, the first DCA in Florida, I can expand Florida, expand Court of Appeals, and then I could check next to First District, and that would show me just the first DCA cases once I apply the filter. I can also do a date restriction. So in Florida, there was a big change regarding expert witness, and I think it was July of 2013. So if you wanted to see all of the cases after that date, you can do a date restriction for all dates after, or if you wanted to see the cases before that, you could do that, or a specific date range. So that allows you to set those parameters. You can also filter by whether it is a reported case or an unreported case, and then you can filter topically. Generally, you can filter by civil or criminal, or within civil, you can see if you expand, there's a whole host of different civil topics. So if you only wanted cases dealing with, say, taxation and your search terms, you could filter by taxation. You can filter by judge, attorney, or law firm, so you can see how those individuals or businesses have handled those cases. Have they always taken one side or the other? That sort of thing. You can filter by key number. So if you know that there is a particular key number, or if you find a key number that's really on point to what you're looking for, you can use that key number and filter by that. And then you can filter by party or docket number. And then in the first class we talked about when you signed in, putting in that client ID and how you could go back and select a previous client ID. So if you have signed in under this particular client ID, within the last 30 days, anything that you have viewed under that client ID would have this glasses icon on it. And so you can filter by whether you have viewed or have not viewed. And the icon would appear over here on the right-hand side of the citation. So you can filter by if you've viewed that document or if you haven't, or if you've saved the document under any client ID. This isn't tied to the client ID. If you've saved the document, then it would show the little folder icon. If you foldered it, here's the glasses icon. And then if you saved it to a folder, it would have this icon. So you can filter it by whether you have saved the document to the folder or you've not saved it to a folder. And then we'll go over this in a little bit, but you can annotate documents and you can filter it by whether you've annotated the documents or if you haven't. So then once you have everything that you want to filter by, click Apply Filters, and it will filter down your list to exactly the criteria that you put in. If I want to go into a case, I just click on the case name. And then if I click Return to List, that takes me to back to my result list. So again, I could go into statutes, regulations, secondary sources. These arrows will take me document by document through my case list. The search term arrows will search for my original search terms, or if I had filtered my results on the original screen, I would have the option to search for those terms. Those terms will be highlighted in a purple color. Or I could also use this magnifying glass and search just within this document, and those terms would be highlighted in green. So I can select which terms I want to jump through the document with. I can navigate down to the best portion, which is where the highest concentration of my search terms appear. That's what this green arrow here is indicating. Or I can hide the highlights if I want. So once I find search terms, this head note here is editorially written by our attorney editors. So, and the reason we write them, we don't just cut and paste the language from the courts, is to increase your chance of getting relevant documents back. So the attorney editors will use synonyms to terms used in the case, just to retrieve, so you don't have to use the exact language of the court. And so if you want to see the exact language of the court, if you click the head note number there, it will jump you down into the opinion so that you can see the actual language of the court. And then you can jump back by clicking the head note number again, and it takes you back up into your head notes. The go-to we went over a little bit in the first class, but for those of you that weren't in the first class, this just allows you to browse through the document. So if you want to start where the head notes are, you can select that. If you want to go into the opinion, it will scroll you right to where the opinion begins. You can also, if you wanted to see the concurring or dissenting opinions, that will scroll you there. And then if someone has cited to a particular page number, you can type in the page number and it will take you down to where that page begins, so you don't have to scroll through trying to find that page number. So you can see the context of what they were citing to. If you want to monitor this citation, if this is a hot topic and there's a lot going on with it and you want to know if anything new comes out, This bell button allows you to monitor the citation. It creates what's called a key cite alert. And if you click on it, it just takes you through a setup wizard, allowing you to set the parameters of what you want delivered. So it's telling you what citation is monitoring, and then you just go through the steps 2, 3, and 4. And you can set it up for email delivery to notify you if anything new comes out. You can leave it on a very broad level where you say, I want anything that cites to this case from any jurisdiction for any reason, or you can be very specific and say, I only want cases from Florida that cite to the point of law discussed in Head Note 4. And again, set it up for email delivery, and you'll get an email notification letting you know if anything new comes out. The email will have a hyperlink to whatever the citation is, and you just click on that. It prompts you for your password, and it takes you right into that document. So you can immediately see, you don't have to go into the case and then key cite it and try to find the result. It takes you right into the new citing document. So you can also copy the link. So if you wanted to have a link to the case or statute, whatever it is that you're looking at, you can do that. Again, this magnifying glass allows you to, excuse me, allows you to search for additional terms within your document. This is just a display option, so if you wanted a larger font or different style font, you can change that there. And then this button that looks kind of like a Post-it note is basically just that. It allows you to annotate your document. So if I click this, that button allows you to annotate at the top of the document. So you can see I have a couple of notes here. It includes the date that I made the note. It includes the client ID and the time when I made the note. And so those documents, you can see these are almost 2 years old. So they stick on the document unless you go in and take them off. And so this is a nice feature, especially if you're sharing folders and you've saved this to a folder. You may want to put an annotation up at the top for other people saying, you know, I saved this because of X, Y, and Z. The other way that you can annotate the document is if you find something that you like, you can annotate in line. So I highlight the text that I'm interested in. I can save just that portion of the document to a folder if I want, or I can save the entire document. But when I highlight, I have the option to just save that portion, and it will be labeled in your folder as a snippet, and then it has a link to the full citation. So if you wanted to go back out and see the full citation, you would be able to do that. But this allows you to add a note that will appear here in the margin, and you can color code it. So if all of your notes related to issue X are in blue, you can add a note and color code it with the X. If you don't want to add a note but you just want to highlight, again, you can color code your highlighting. And then you also have the option to copy with reference. If you haven't used this before, it's going to say standard here in parentheses. So if you click the drop down arrow, you can select Florida. And what that does is it takes the text that you highlighted and copies it, and then you can take it over to Word and paste it in, and it will give you the citation along with the pinpoint page number from where you took that text from. And it also removes hyperlinking, so you don't have to go in and do a paste special and take out hyperlinking and reformat and all of that. So it automatically takes out the hyperlinking, and then it will add the citation with the pinpoint page number from where you put the text, from where you took the text from the opinion. So that's another way that you can annotate. And again, here's, you can see it adds the date, the client ID, and the time that you added the notes. And this button will allow you to save the document to a folder once you're in there, and I've saved this to probably all of my folders. So if you haven't saved it before, you'll get the confirmation that says that you've saved it to that folder. If you have, it just tells you that you've already saved it to this folder and you can't add a duplicate in there. Your next option is your delivery option. The icon that you'll see here is just going to show the last delivery method you used. So yours might show a printer. instead of the email icon, but you can click the drop down arrow and select if you want to email, print, download, send a Dropbox, or send a Kindle. But when you go into print, if you go into the content to append, or the document, sorry, the basics, you can do the document and your annotations or just your document. And you can also, when you share your folder, if you don't want your annotations to be shared, you can select that as well. But this also allows you to sort of override. The preferences is sort of your permanent setting. This allows you to go in each document and say what you want to include or not include. And so you can go in with the key, add the key site information in there too. One thing I didn't show in preferences though is history. Okay, so I mentioned in the first training that your research will be saved for a year in your history. You can also, I have my password set. If you go into preferences and history, I have it set to email me my history when I sign off. So I get an email when I sign off that has a Word attachment, and everything on there is hyperlinked. So that's a way that you could save it for longer if you would like. And you can click on it and it takes you, if it's a search, it takes you right into the search results for that. If it's a document, it takes you right into the documents. It's also a way to know if somebody got a hold of your password. If you all of a sudden get a Westlaw sign-off session summary and you weren't using it, then you know somebody was on your password. But so you can set that under preferences and history. So let's go into KeyCite, which is the citator service in Westlaw, and how you know if a document is still good law or not. So you can see that this case has a yellow flag on it. A yellow flag means that there's negative treatment, but it hasn't been overruled. A red flag means that it has been that it's no longer good law for at least one point of law. And then there's a relatively new flag, probably about 6 or 8 months old now. It's a blue and white striped flag, kind of horizontal stripes, and that lets you know if a case is on appeal. So if you're relying on something and it's got that blue and white flag on it, that might be one that you want to create a KeyCite alert for, especially if you're not going to turn your document in for a while, because there's a chance that it could have some status change before that appeal may be heard before you turn it in. So if you want to find out why it has the yellow flag or red flag, if you go into negative treatment, that will show you the direct history and the indirect history. So these are all the cases that cite to it. If you want to view those cases, you can click on the case name. The quote marks show you that it's quoting your case. It tells you the date that the opinion came out. It tells you that it's a case. And this is telling you how much discussion there is. So 4 is the most, and that's a page or more of printed text in the reporter. 3 is up to a page, 2 is a paragraph, and 1's a string cite. So it lets you gauge how much discussion of your case there is. And then the last column tells you which points of law within your case that it's citing to you to. So if you hover your cursor over, it will give you the full text of the head note, so you know exactly which points of law it's citing to. If I go into history, that's going to show how my case got to where it is today. It loads in 2 different views, same information, just user preference on how you prefer to read the information. So on the left-hand side, you have the text chain. Your case that you came into KeyCite from has this yellow highlighting. So this is the case that we were looking at, and you can read through the text chain there. Or you have a graphical view on the right. Again, your case is highlighted in this yellowish orange color here. And if you can see as you hold your cursor over, it will pop each box up so you can read what it actually says. But the graphical view is going to load at the largest view possible for you to see the entire history in one screen. So if it's got a pretty detailed history, you might have a bunch of tiny squares in there. But if you hover over, you can actually read what it says. And it's hard to see on the screen there, but the dotted line indicates when it goes to a different court. So it says here trial court, intermediate court, and U.S. Supreme Court. So you can see each time it progressed to a different court as well. And then citing references are all documents, positive, negative, pleadings, motions, memoranda, secondary sources, anything in Westlaw that cites to this document. This is a big case, so it's got over 130,000 citations to it. My guess is you don't want to read that many documents. And so on the left-hand side, you have the documents, again, broken out by document type. So if you're just interested in cases, you can click on cases. But again, there's still almost 22,000 cases citing to this. So again, a lot more than what you would care to or have time to read. And so you, again, have filters on the left-hand side. So if you scroll down, you can filter, again, by additional search terms. You can say, I just want Florida cases. I don't care about anybody else. So let's check Florida. You can do the date restriction. This is a different filter than you had in the first in your results list. This is saying, I don't want to waste my time reading a case that just cites to it in a string cite because there's not going to be much analysis, if any. So I can say I want at least a paragraph of discussion. I can also say if I'm interested in the case for evidence or federal civil procedure, or I can specify and say, you know, I really liked Head Note 1 and Head Note 4. So I can select those. I can view only negative or hide negative treatment. I can filter it to only reported cases or unreported cases, and then I can just apply, and it will filter down from almost 22,000 cases to 7. So there's only 7 that are in the jurisdiction that we're interested in, that cite to the points of law that we're interested in, that have at least a paragraph of discussion. So you can quickly hone in on what you're interested in and not waste your time manually going through all of those other documents. So use your filters to really help you and narrow things down and get what you're interested in. Again, you can click on the case name to view that case and see where it's citing your case. And then the last part of KeyCite is the table of authorities. It's sort of like reverse key citing. KeyCite shows you the cases that cite to your document. The table of authorities is giving you a list of all of the cases that are cited to within your case. And it also gives you the KeyCite status of those cases. If you want to see what your case is saying about that case, you can click on the page number there, and it will automatically scroll you to where it's first cited. I have a bunch of highlighting on there, so so here's the first time it's cited. And then I can click my term arrow, and it shows me each time it's cited after that. And once I get to the last result, it tells me I've reached the last term in this document, so you know you've seen every time that it's cited in there. So I'm going to go back to my home page, and we'll start talking about the Boolean searches, the terms and connector searches. I can type in my terms and connector search here, so I can say search within 3 words of some form of C's within the same paragraph as extra. So I can type my search in like that. Westlaw is powered by a search engine called WestSearch. And what WestSearch does is it goes into our proprietary materials like the digest, into KeyCite, into secondary sources. It converts your search behind the scenes into a bunch of different searches. And it's looking into all of these sources, trying to pull back things that are relevant. So if it's seeing that you're looking for search in C's, and you're asking for the term exigent to be in the same paragraph, maybe it found it in the next paragraph, but it's got that topic and key number in there because it's looking into the digest. So WestSearch will bring that back, even if it's not exactly the way you typed it in. So I can type in my search this way, and it will run through those first 2 columns again. And so you can see I have a much smaller document set. Everything else is the same. I have my overview. So again, everything is the same there. I can go into advanced, and you have field restrictions here. And it also gives you your connectors and expanders. So if you're not terribly familiar with them, you can go in here and see the connectors and expanders. Different browsers display them in different places. So if you're using Chrome, most of the time it has the terms and connectors down at the bottom. So if you go in and you don't see them, just scroll down. They may be at the bottom depending on the browser that you're using. So I can use the field restrictions and say I want all of these terms to appear, any of these terms, or I can use this exact phrase. So that is, if I'm using this exact phrase, you can see as I type it in the field, it populates it up here using the quotes, because that's how I ask for this exact phrase. You want to be careful with using the quotes, though, because in this example here, personal jurisdiction, there may be cases that say jurisdiction over the person. And if you're looking for that exact phrase, personal jurisdiction, it's not going to pull those back if you're saying I want it exactly as personal jurisdiction. So if it's something that may be said a different way, you might want to say personal within 3 of jurisdiction, and that would give you personal jurisdiction or jurisdiction over the person. You can also exclude documents or exclude terms. So let's say you are looking for RICO cases, but you're getting results that say Puerto Rico. So you can say, but not Puerto Rico. And all you have to do is type in Puerto Rico, and it translates it to but not, which would be the % sign in Puerto Rico. You can do the date restriction, then you can do the citation, and you can do the title of the case. So if you click Advanced from the home screen, you have sort of limited fields that you can do the searches from. If you're just looking for cases and you really want to do a detailed terms and connector searches, I would say go into cases. And then if you're just interested in Florida, you can go into Florida. And then when you click Advanced, you have a lot more fields that you can search in. And the reason for that is from the home screen, it's only giving you the fields that all the documents in those first 2 columns have. And so since they're such different styles of documents, there's only a few fields that are common across all of them. But when we're searching in cases, they all have the same fields. So you can see all of the additional fields that I have to limit my results by. So if I wanted to just search in the concurring opinion or the dissenting opinion, I can limit my search terms to just appearing in there. I can, again, exclude terms. I can, if I want a lot of discussion of my terms, I can say I just want my terms to appear in the synopsis or the digest field. The synopsis field is that paragraph at the top of the case. The digest is where your head notes appear. And so I can limit that to there. And then again, if you're not sure what a field is, if you click on that little PDF icon there, it shows how the document is broken up and what you're searching by using each particular. And the term that I was trying to think of is strict. So if you want to essentially disable West search, if you type in strict : and then your terms and connector search, it's going to search just the way you put your search in. So if I came in and I said search within 3 words of some form of C's, and so I can, and it's more of if you're using the quotes, if you're looking for an exact phrase, because if you type it in up there without using this exact phrase field, it will try to help you out and give. It's requiring your search to appear exactly the way you typed it in, instead of West search helping you out and saying, I found search within 5 words of C's. All right, so the other type of alert, and we touched on it a little bit in the first class. If you go up here to the top right and click alerts, you can set up a key site alert. You can set up a key site alert from this screen. It's easiest though, just when you have the document up, just to click that bell and create the alert. But the other type of an alert is called a West clip, and I have some that I've created with different people. So you can click on alerts at the top of the screen, and then click create alert, and then you select what you want. So key site alert monitors a specific citation. West clip monitors an issue. So if you want to, I think one of the ones that I had there. So if I wanted, news articles, all new news articles coming out. Yeah, red snapper. So if I wanted all new news articles coming out about mentioning the term red snapper, or a particular person or a particular agency, or a bill, somebody was talking about a bill earlier, that allows you to type in a search with keywords and say, I want news articles that mention this, or I want new cases that mention this. So a West clip will monitor an issue rather than just one particular citation. And you just go through the setup wizard. You give it a name, so whatever it is that you're monitoring. If you want to type in a description, you can. And then from here, you go in and you select what you want it to run through. Do you want to just monitor cases? Do you want to monitor secondary sources, news, whatever it is that you want? And if it's cases, or even if it's anything that you're monitoring, if you click add just next to cases, it's going to run through all. So if you want to narrow it down, go ahead and click on that hyperlink, and you can narrow down what you're searching. So if you wanted everything Florida, you can hit add there, or you can click on Florida and get just state court cases. So from the previous screen, I would have gotten state and federal. So if I just want state, I can narrow it down and add just state court cases, or I can narrow it again and say I just want DCA or just want Supreme Court. So you can be very specific on where you're monitoring, but just so you know that if you hit add next to that first link there, it's going to be the highest level. And then once you enter that, then you want to enter your search terms and then where you want it to be delivered. One of the options is deliver to notify you at sign-on. I wouldn't recommend that unless you're going into Westlaw every day. The best option is to do an email delivery. And you can set the time that you want it to run, so you can have it run early in the morning so it's there first thing when you come in. But it just lets you know if there's anything new out there. And it will also let you know if nothing new has come out, so you know that it's still running. And then if it's something that you don't need to monitor anymore, from the Alert Center, just going into the alerts, you can go in and you can manage your alerts. So you can go in and delete them. Or if you're not getting exactly what you want and you want to add some search terms or change some search terms, you can go in and you can edit the alert as well. If you do switch from House to Senate, or for whatever reason get a new email address, you want to make sure that you come in under this little person here and do update OnePass profile. And that will allow you to change the email address associated with your password. Because if you don't and you forget your password, when you click that forgot password link, it's going to send it to whatever email address you have registered to your profile. So if it's not an active email address anymore, it's just going to go to nowhere and you won't get the reset password. If that happens, you can let Karen know and she can let me know, and I can have our home office. They have access to go in and change the email address for you, but to not have to go through that process, if you do change email addresses, just make sure you you update your OnePass profile so that it has your current email address. But the same thing with any alerts that you're running. You want to go in and edit those so that you're still getting the notification if it's something that you still need to monitor. Right. Well, we've covered everything for the intermediate class. Y'all are quiet, so we go through these pretty fast.